Hello and welcome to another episode of Super Lady Hero Hour here on FANVERSATION. I am your host, YL Teagle. I'm joined as always by KB. Hello, KB.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, we are so excited. There's a lot to talk about. As always, we have the first 3 episodes of Amazon's Invincible, plus the latest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, Batwoman, The Flash, and the return of Supergirl, because that's back all of a sudden. But first, let's get into some news. Let's start with our CW news, because the new show Powerpuff, which we were previously told was the Powerpuff Girls, is now being called Powerpuff, and Donald Faison has been cast as Professor Ultonium.
Utonium. Professor Utonium.
Why am I adding an L? I don't know.
It happens. I mean, you know how I feel about the show. I guess we'll see what happens when it gets there. So this casting, I actually liked Donald Faison on Emergence, which got canceled by ABC, and that's the latest show that he was on. And, you know, I've seen him in a lot of other things throughout the years, and, you know, yay. I'm glad that he's working, but like, I don't necessarily love the idea of this show, but here we are. So
yeah, here's what I'll say. We've been talking a lot about this show, and right now it's still just a pilot. Like, this show has not been picked up. So as excited as I am and as not excited as you are, it may not even happen. That's okay.
But I thought it got a full series order.
No, it's still a pilot.
Okay.
Or at least that is what I read most recently, is that it is still just a pilot.
Well, the pilot is stacking up then, I guess, is what we can say.
Yeah, and I agree. I like Donald Faison from Emergence, from all of his other work as well. But I'm happy to see him work. Also on the CW, we've got some casting scoop for the new Naomi show, which is the Ava DuVernay show. And we have Seventh Heaven alum Barry Watson is going to be a series regular with Muzam Makar. I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, whom I know from a couple episodes of SVU, but other people might know from The Fix. Mary Charles Johns from Kevin Can Wait, Aiden Gimme from Finding Neverland, Daniel Poog from The System. I am messing up all these names. And Will Myers from Bad Education. I'm so sorry for butchering all these names.
So, Barry Watson.
Yes.
I used to adore Seventh Heaven, you know, for all of its crazy drama. And so, and Barry's been on quite a few things also. So I'm excited for Barry to be back, you know, strong on a network TV show. And I am also excited for Will Myers. Bad Education is such a good movie. It's like ridiculous, and it's based on a true story, which makes it even more ridiculous. And so I am just excited for these people to be joining, you know, this cast. I can't wait to see what happens, you know, with Naomi. Honestly, like let's get to it.
Yeah, just pulling up some pictures for anyone who wants to see these faces, especially because I butchered their names. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see that.
Yay!
For sure. Also, okay, before we get into that, let's start with the other.
Let's happier news.
Yeah, some casting news for the CW. Jordan Fisher is going to be appearing on The Flash as Bart Allen.
AKA Impulse. Yes, I'm super excited for this. You know, anyone who knows me IRL and even on the internet knows how much I adore the To All the Boys franchise, and Jordan is in the second one. In the second film, and kills it in that film, and is a wildly talented musician and singer and, you know, actor. And honestly, I do adore how they like cast this collage of Jordan's face. I do adore how they cast Barry and Iris's children thus far. I think that they have been like a really good blend of them. And so just knowing like Grant also has a very heavy and talented musical background. So it's so interesting that they're like pulling all of these worlds in. And so I am excited to see kind of what Jordan brings to Bart and Impulse. And he will be joining this season. I think they said the 17th episode. It was like kind of far away. I remember thinking like, yeah, like he has not started filming yet, based on his tweets that he sent out yesterday. Like, oh, I'm so excited to like get up there and start shooting. So I was like, oh, it hasn't even happened yet. So I'm curious, but I will say, you know, here on Super Lady Hero Hour, Yell and I have been discussing when they were going to have a kid because, you know, the way the timelines are working out. And it looks like sooner than later, we're going to get to see a new family member, you know, on the Allen side. So,
yeah. Yes. And I think that's wonderful news. I'm also a fan of this kid, so I'm excited to see it. All right. Now the news I was skipping. Oh,
wait. Well, before then, Black Adam. Finally,
you want good news.
We finally got a release date, which I'm actually super thrilled to see Black Adam. And just because the cast keeps shaping up pretty well. So it is going to be released summer of 2022, July 29th, 2022. We finally have Black Adam. And so, yeah, like I know that The Rock, aka Dwayne Johnson, because I think he just goes by Dwayne Johnson now, has just given us so many different teases. And I feel like we've been getting teases every week almost. It feels like that. But I'm not mad at it because I'm really excited and I can't wait to see it. And so also now because of that, we have a new slate of films, a new like timeline rather for the DCEU films coming out. And 2022 is going to be pretty crazy because Shazam 2 and Aquaman are also slated to come out in 2022. So
yeah,
what a time to be alive.
I'm very excited for movies to be released. That is my excitement. All right. Now this news. So because of the wild success of Zack Snyder's Justice League, David Ayer would like his release, his cut of Suicide Squad to be released. I will say, could have seen this coming. Not necessarily about this movie, but like this behavior, could have seen this coming.
I think the difference is Zack Snyder actually did not champion for the Snyder cut to come out. It was fans, specifically like mostly international fans, non-US fans that were like, no, we really want to see the Snyder cut. We really want to see the Snyder cut. Also, there were like heartbreaking and extenuating circumstances surrounding that entire process, which makes it different. Like,
I understand what you're saying. And I think those are all great and very valid points. I think we have set a dangerous precedent. And I think that we should have seen this coming. And I think that we're going to get a lot more of this. Because you're right. It was the fans championing this argument. And I think that now that David Ayer has put it out there, the fans may start championing.
We'll rally behind it. Like,
yeah.
We'll be like, yes, this is what we want.
And I think that's a dangerous precedent. But that's the news. And should that day come, we will be here to discuss it for you.
We will watch it. We will. Okay, so before we dive in, this is your full spoiler warning. Alert. We are definitely going to be spoiling all things about the shows that we discussed today. So if you have not watched them, you should probably watch them first and then come back to watch our instant replay that will be on FANVERSATION's YouTube channel, following this live broadcast. So let's get into The Flash. Here's the quick cap for the 5th episode. Wild that there's already been 5 episodes. I'm not going to lie. I was like, what? Called Fear Me. So a new villain, Psyche, strikes at the people of Central City, giving them visions of their worst fears. And Flash is his next target. So how did you feel overall about Fear Me, episode 5?
this episode was it was fine. It was like, this is an episode of The Flash. I'm okay with it. I did like Cecile having a lot more to do. I did like that Flash didn't talk our villain down. Like, the solution wasn't for Flash to talk him down. So like, that's a nice change of pace. Otherwise, I think it was a fine episode. I'm excited for us to move forward. What did you think? Oh, have you frozen?
And here we go. So, yep, I see it. Okay. So anyway, I actually enjoyed the episode. I'm glad that we had like a villain who was doing something different. Like, I feel like to be able to kind of tap into people's subconscious, and be a meta psychic, as what I think that's what they were calling him. Yeah, meta psychic. I think is something that we haven't seen before on this show. So I liked the idea very much of that. And I also liked the idea that like Barry was susceptible, like that nothing could turn that off. So like Barry is wearing the cowl, but the cowl doesn't protect from, kind of his psyche being attacked. I like that a lot. I like that Cecile is like the heroine of the day. She had a lot more to do, but it really was her and her powers that kind of helped push the team along. I don't care that Frost and Caitlin are split. Like, it's kind of like cool, but I mean, I guess we see now how they're going to tackle that, with Frost now being kind of public enemy number one and being kind of on the hit list and targeted. So maybe she'll go to prison, or maybe, Caitlin, Frost rather, will decide that she does want to go back to being as one, once she finds out the alternative, which is likely prison or maybe death. I don't know, but I really feel like it's not death because no one dies on this show in that way. Like, it's weird how people like just have like random accidents worth of death, but I don't think that necessarily they would kill her, if that makes sense. But yeah. It was good I adore the actress that plays Barry's mom, Nora. Like, I adore her. So I was so happy to see her back. Even if they are just toying with us and she is still just another, kind of version of the Speed Force come to life, essentially. In a form that is, I guess, most soothing to Barry. I don't know. But I will say I did walk away slightly confused, where at the end of the episode, she was like, oh, I think they're just like me. Figments of Barry's imagination from the Speed Force. Like, I don't know what that means.
I'm so glad you said it. I was like, okay, this person, I was like, anytime we see this body, it's the Speed Force taking this form, correct? And then they were like, but they're like me, but then their Speed Force? What's their Speed Force taking these weird, like the behemoths thing, form? That seems odd. But other than that, I agree with you wholeheartedly. This Frost Caitlin situation, I agree that Frost's options are to reunify or jail. And that she's going to choose to reunify. I did enjoy this like discussion of how she wants to be free and she wants to live a life. I get that. I totally understand that. I also was right about them using what's it called? Firestorm. I was right about Firestorm.
Oh yes, Firestorm.
I knew it would come back into play. Yeah, it was, again, I felt fine with it. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. Yeah, let's rate this episode.
Okay, so since you didn't hate it and you didn't love it, how are you rating it?
Honestly, I'm in a generous mood. I'm giving it a kitten.
Yay. Okay. So kitten leaning towards spoon?
Absolutely. You know me. And what about you? I assume also a kitten?
So actually I enjoyed it, minus the Frost and Caitlin stuff, which like legitimately did not interest me in any way until they said, oh, she's the number one enemy. Then I was like, oh, this might be interesting for a storyline.
Yes.
So yeah, I had a kitten, it was fine. I appreciated that. Again, Barry kind of took a backseat and they let Cecile kind of drive how to navigate this, because Barry is just kind of in his own head about his fears. What I didn't like though is that Barry shuts down completely when something doesn't go a certain way. And so it's real interesting that he like didn't want to talk to anyone on the team, and he didn't like, and I was like, okay, Barry, now we need to get over this. Like, whatever this is for the past couple of episodes where you just like, I don't need to talk to anyone about anything. You guys don't need to know anything that's going on. Let's just follow my instructions. Like, what? So that's why he ended up where he did at the end. This is what happens, Barry, when you don't lean on the people in your life. So here we are. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen next episode?
I agree with you. I think we're going to have more of Barry doing this shutdown thing. I do think we're going to have a Frost realizes her options. I still think they're going to reunite, or they're getting rid of her, which I think is a choice to get rid of her and not Caitlin, but whatever. Yeah, I think that we're going to get to a point where Iris points out to Barry that like she went through something traumatic and has to talk about it, and he is dealing with some stuff and has to talk about it. Like they keep paralleling each other in a way that's like we're grown up and should be past this. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so I agree. I told you last episode, if we're going to keep one, then it should be Frost. That's my personal opinion. But doesn't look like we're headed that way. So here we are. So I think we'll get more of that. I think we will finally find out what Nora is referring to, because again, I'm so confused. Are these people part of the Speed Force, and why are they monsters? I don't understand, truly. But I do think this is how we get Bart. It kind of makes sense, because I thought, oh, look at all this Speed Force, look at all these lightning rods. One of them's a speedster. That's probably how we're going to get Bart, because obviously Bart's going to be an adult, which means, he's not going to be a child because Jordan is an adult. So clearly this version is going to come from the future, or, some other timeline of source, I guess. But I'm curious to see it. I like that Cecile's getting more agency, but what does that mean for next episode? And what does that mean for Joe West? What's going to happen now that he knows that there's kind of a bounty on Killer Frost's head, essentially, but a governmental bounty. So really just a regular attack. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see. I have an inkling that next season will be the final season of the show. I feel like that's where we're headed. So I am curious to see kind of what they do with these characters now, especially because this season is the first season with a shortened order. Like most of the shows have a shortened order now, which they could go a little bit shorter. I'm not even going to lie. But I think next season will be the last season. So I'm curious to see how everything kind of pans out. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, next, let's dive into Supergirl. This is the quick cut for the 6th and final season premiere. Speaking of final seasons, this episode was called Rebirth. Lex attempts to take control of half the population of Earth as the first steps in his plan to fix the universe. What did you think of this episode?
It was all right. For me, I didn't hate it, but it was just kind of okay. It was exactly what I expected it to be, honestly. I think the only surprising thing is that, Kara is zapped away. I'm just going to use the term zapped because I don't have any other words to use to replace it. But literally, that's it. I mean, Lex is pretty consistent in terms of being a villain. And so that's kind of one of my complaints for Supergirl, but it's also the same complaint I have about Black Lightning when it comes to Tobias Whale. They're very much predictable. So Lex wanting to do this is nothing new. And I mean, last night I was like, Lex is so annoying because honestly, he truly is. Your goal is always the same. Can you come with something fresh? It was an episode. It was what it was. I think it was shot well, but Supergirl for me has always been super campy. And I wonder, I actually really adored the first season in the way that it was done. And I kind of wish that we could go back to the essence of that because it was a little less campy. And I'm hoping for the final season, we can tie up things well, but I'm excited that Alex is now, she was giving her own superhero name for some strange reason. I can't remember it, but
it was Sentinel. And I
Sentinel,
remember this because I tweeted out a X-Men Sentinels joke.
Oh gosh, yeah. So she's finally a superhero in her own right, and she is, not only brilliant, but she's also BA. And so, I love this for her. And yeah, I mean, it was good to see Lena's growth this episode. I appreciate the journey that they've taken with Lena Luthor. I think that's kind of one of the best storylines, the journey that Lena has been on too. So what did you think about this episode?
It's interesting. This episode felt very much like they started right where we left off last season. And had I rewatched last season, I probably would have cared, but I didn't. I was like, let's wrap this up. Let's move it along. Like, nobody cares about any of this. We're wrapping it up. We're moving along. And that's what happened is they were like, okay, let's tie this together. Okay, let's move it along. And so I appreciate them like setting us up for where we're going. I agree with you. Lex is the most predictable, like Tobias, like we know what you're doing. That said, I like that they played with that this episode with the Lena protocol. Like, yes, we know what Lex is going to do. Therefore, we're going to know what we're going to do. But yes, he is kind of a boring villain. And I disagree with you about the campiness. I wish it would be more campy. I wish it would lean into the camp. I wish like we were being silly and Legends of Tomorrow wild. And I feel like this episode was taken way too seriously, especially with like, we had to reunite Brainy and Dreamer. Like we had to deal with that. We had to resolve the family issues. And then this whole thing where Lena's telling Alex, like, you have to tell, I forget her girlfriend's name. Like, you have to tell her about Kelly. Thank you. You have to tell her about Kara. I'm like, no, Lena, she does not.
So I actually didn't mind that. I think that she's going to have to tell her because Kara's missing and you don't know how long that's going to last. And ultimately, how much I abhor when superheroes give up their identity. Like, it's so annoying. And I understand this is a little bit different because she's giving up her sister's identity, but there's no way to have a conversation where your sister's missing for an indefinite amount of time and you're just like ignoring that in your relationship. Like, it's odd. Also, the fact that, to Lena's point, she's going to want to talk about some things or talk it out. And like, you're going to be at home and you want to talk it out. And what are you going to do? Leave so you can go talk to John or lean so you can talk to Lena. And then you're always leaving. And that causes like another scenario or layer in your relationship where it's like, why are you always gone to chat with your friends about your life when you could, just talk to me?
You make really good points, but I think Lena's whole thing, like, Lena was butthurt that she didn't know, and I almost yelled at my TV, like, aren't you happy that you know before someone else? Like, can't you shut up and be happy about that? That's how I felt about it. Let's talk about Kara missing. We see that she is zapped with the portal to the Phantom Zone. And that's all we essentially know.
Then those like alien flying ghosts, I don't know what they were. I probably called them ghosts last night. Who knows? But I guess we're going to find out next episode.
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah. All right, let's rate this. I want to get into predictions. Let's rate this.
So, I am going to rate it a spoon. For me, I just, I didn't think it was fantastic. It was kind of enjoyable. I mean, I just think that like, it was very, very predictable in a lot of ways. So I was just like, oh, okay, can we move this along? Last year feels wild. So I'm sure maybe production got shut down for them and this is a continuation, or I don't know that for sure because I don't recall, but I'm going to assume so since every other show got shut down production wise.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to like the real beginning of this season, which I'm calling, the episodes that will follow. And Supergirl may have like one or two that were shut down from production. So I can't wait to see kind of what we tackled this season. But I will say shout out to William for sharing that byline with Kara because he was getting all that praise and he was like, I can't, it's not right. I got to share that byline. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you for the journalism etiquette. So what about you? How are you rating it?
I'm being generous today. I'm gonna give it a kitten. That kitten is like real bordering that spoon. But I'll give him
That
a
kid
kitten.
that's eating from the spoon?
Yeah. It was fine. It was fine. I didn't mind it. I do feel like this, at least plot wise, this felt like the finale, right? Like she's missing. That's a cliffhanger. That's how you end a season. So in my mind, depending on what happens next, in my mind, next episode is the season premiere.
Okay, that's fair. So what do you think is going to happen this season?
I think the Phantom Zone part is going to be very short lived, hopefully. I guess I'm hopeful. I want the Phantom Zone part to be short lived. Yeah, but it would be nice, in Supergirl's absence, that we're going to have the whole team, now that we have such a big team, picking up slack, and maybe the issue will be she'll come back and realize she wasn't missed by like the people of Earth, whereas she's missed by her team. You know what I mean? Like the people did just fine without her. Maybe.
Okay.
What do you think?
So I literally have no predictions for this show. Like zero.
That's fair.
What I hope happens as we wrap up this season is that some familiar faces who have left the show in the past but are still living, which is legitimately everyone, gets to come back, and wrap up some things and storylines. I hope that happens. I do hope we get a Superman crossover. Originally they were planning the big, normal, usual CW crossover, but like a couple of the shows were going to be missing. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that like whatever we get from that will serve as kind of Supergirl send off or farewell in a lot of ways. I hope that happens. And I hope that by the end of the season that we get kind of a fulfilling end to kind of her story. And I'm also curious to see who's going to come on over to the Superman and Lois side of things when this show ends, because, I feel like obviously I anticipate there will be some character deaths in like this final season. But for the most part, people can be reused if they're open to it and, appearing again in other TV shows, particularly Superman and Lois. So I would be curious to see kind of who eventually crosses over in that regard once we end. But
I love your thoughts on that. That's a really great point.
So yes. All right. So next up, let's talk about Batwoman. So here's the quick cap for the 9th episode and mid-season finale, rule number 1. Batwoman hunts down Black Mask, who has taken Angelique prisoner. So how did you feel about Batwoman overall?
I really enjoyed this episode. I liked that we've moved on. She's healed. We're moving forward. We're getting the story going. I did like also the tie-ins with explaining Black Mask and their involvement with other things. I like the tie-in with Sophie's sister. I like that we're expanding the storyline, which is nice. I did not care for Alice's whatever. That's how I felt with this episode. What about you?
So, yeah, I think, Alice has had a number of psychotic breaks. It seems within the show. And this was another one where she's literally having tea with like her childhood self, and addressing and unpacking trauma in that regard. So that was interesting to me. It actually was interesting to kind of see what that meant and what this means, and kind of what pushed her over the edge, because essentially nothing has changed, right? So I'm kind of curious to know why this happened. Because Ocean is technically alive, which I don't think she knows, right? So
she doesn't know.
Maybe that was the biggest trigger of like, oh, and your sister's not on this island, so maybe it was the combination.
She thinks her sister's dead. So first she thinks that Kate's dead again, right? Because Sophia's like, I didn't do it. I lied to you.
Which is weird to me, though, because Sophia never said she was dead. She just said, I lied to you about her being on this island. She actually never said anything other than I never had her on this island. So it's weird to me that she went automatically to death, because it's like she didn't say she wasn't alive. She just said, I didn't have her on this island.
Right. I think that's it. But also, was the tea party with younger Alice, or was it younger Kate?
Oh, that I don't know. I mean, they are twins, and
Right.
technically, like in the flashbacks, the people who play them are actually twins, and so
Mm,
not like them being
yeah.
twins. Which, um, so actually, I don't know. That's a good question. So I could be wrong, and if someone knows, let us know for real.
Yeah.
But either way, I wasn't sure if it was like seeing Ocean die, because then now she understands kind of the type of love that they had,
Yeah.
which again, y'all know, I kind of just feel like they were friends with benefits, but sure. So like maybe like now understanding the type of love they have and like physically having to kill him kind of also, triggered her. And then not being reunited with her sister and being lied to by Sophia. And of course, like you said, her, thinking that she's dead was maybe it. But I actually thought that was interesting. So to your point, I know you said you didn't, but I actually thought it was interesting. I also think it's interesting that Ryan is completely healed and actually also now has the only desert rose plant in the world.
Right.
So I think that that's going to come into play in a lot of ways as the season progresses. Not trying to jump ahead to predictions, but I think that that is significant as to why she has the only one.
Mm-hmm.
I love the introduction of Sophie's little sister. Not only her being like a social disruptor, but her being completely opposite of Sophie is a really interesting dynamic, but also her being completely supportive of Sophie in her personal life, where, they like had a conversation about, their mom not being as supportive about, Sophie being a lesbian and being out. And so it's just really interesting to kind of see their dynamic, because when it comes to work and career, they absolutely are not on the same page. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that we leaned into the Sophie Ryan vibes. Like her sister was like, oh, I'm not blind. I see what this kind of vibe is going on here. And I was like, finally, we're going to talk about it, because I feel like they've been like teasing it along the way, but not saying anything. And so I'm like, yes. And honestly, I'm just really happy that Angelique is gone. No offense to the actor, but I just think she's a terrible person for Ryan. And there needed to be some way for that to come to a head. Like, Ryan, you cannot keep dipping your toe in the water with this person who is the reason why you've had literally all of the trouble in the world. And I get like there's some sort of allegiance there. And I also understand there's a hold because you guys are each other's first loves. But we need to move on from this. So in the end, Angelique does the right thing, sacrifices herself in order to protect Ryan from Black Mask. And so here we are. How do I feel about Black Mask as a villain? I don't know, because it's not as compelling right now. I mean, to be honest, it's just kind of like, yes, Black Mask is this ominous figure and, he controls this, that, and the other. But have we really seen like all that he's capable of? Am I truly like fearful? I don't think so. Not right now.
I'm with you. Everything you said, I'm with you. Aside from the Alice stuff, I'm with you. But the Black Mask thing, I think seeing him slice a guy open, I think that was when I was like, ooh, what a dangerous villain. Also, like the CW, gruesome. I'm very impressed.
I clearly like, it is a bit darker, I will say, from what they normally go with for villains, but I'm still not like 100% sold on being terrified of Black Mask. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I mean, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's just because, one, I completely forgot about that scene. So maybe that's why I don't feel that way. But two, I think I just need to know more. I think I need to know more about overall motives. What's the end game here? Also, how does this tie into Sophia? Because I feel like there is some sort of, I feel like on these shows, the villains, they do something. So can we bring back Victor? Like how does this all connect? Victor, Sophia, Black Mask, like how does this all connect? That's what I want to see.
Those are really great questions.
So how do you feel ratings wise? I think I know you're going to give it a kitten, but
I'm giving it a kitten. I'm giving it the tiny kitten in a shoebox. I'm definitely giving this a kitten. I enjoyed it. I liked the introduction of Black Mask. I actually, my struggle with Black Mask is the actor was on this great sci-fi show called 12 Monkeys, and he played a very different character. So I don't see him as scary when I see his face. When he's wearing the mask, I find him as a threatening villain. But otherwise, I'm like, no, screw this guy. What about you?
So I'm going to give it a kitten. I actually really enjoyed this episode. I, still have little to no fear of Black Mask currently, but I feel like that is going to change. I mean, Black Mask is going to be a villain at least for another couple of episodes, I assume. So, maybe through the rest of the season, but I don't really know how many episodes they got. So that's also something that just occurred to me because it's like mid-season finale. And I'm like, is this a true mid-season? Like we're getting 9 more? Or is this a mid-season, like we still have 12 to 13 more to go? Like, what does that mean? But yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. So predictions wise, I'm going to dive right in. Again, that Desert Rose, it's no coincidence that this is happening. Also, y'all, I actually do stand Luke and Mary. And I kind of want them to be a couple. Like, I'm not even going to lie. And I've been seeing a lot of theories online as of late. And I was like, I do kind of ship them, though. Like, I do. I don't know. Maybe that they're going to give it to us in, like, the second half. Also, prediction, Kate dies for real. Because right now, she's not dead. Mm-hmm. But I think we got to wrap that up, y'all. It's only room for one Batwoman, and I'm into Ryan. So Kate dies for real.
Interesting. So I'm going to predict that Enigma kind of works over Kate's memory, and Kate becomes kind of a villain, like a bad Batwoman. And so we get like a Batwoman versus Batwoman fight, and then maybe Kate dies or something. But that's where I see us going. I also agree with you about the Desert Rose and Batwoman having it in the team and that being something very important. I think it's all going to tie together. Honestly, the show is not going to let anybody be a loose string. Like Ocean was tied a lot of things together. You know what I mean? Like nothing is loose. So
and Ocean is still there, baby. Ooh, right. Which I'm so happy about. So glad he didn't die. But I agree with you in the sense that it could be very interesting. Mm-hmm. Could be very interesting to see Batwoman v Batwoman.
Yeah, I'd be down. All right, let's take it over to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Here's the quick cap for the second episode, The Star-Spangled Man. John Walker is named Captain America, and Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes team up against the rebel group, the Flag Smashers. Whew. What did you think of this second episode?
Yeah, it was fine. It's definitely reels me in a bit more than the premiere. Like I kept thinking, okay, I just need to see more. But I definitely enjoyed this episode way more. Minus John Walker, y'all. Like, honestly, my biggest complaint is why they had that dynamic black marching band intro John Walker. Like, I was like, okay, y'all. That's kind of like my biggest point of contention from that episode. Really just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, John does not deserve this marching band. But John clearly doesn't deserve anything because he can't be trusted. So my main takeaway from this episode is that John and Battle, y'all, it's been a long day. Battlestar. Yes, Battlestar. Neither one of them can be trusted. I'm just going to call him Lamar right now because technically, that's his name. Lamar and John cannot be trusted. That's my takeaway. I love that they're tackling race in some ways. It doesn't feel like they're tackling race in some ways, but it doesn't necessarily feel as seamless or as authentic as it could. And I can't put my finger on why quite yet. Having Sam get stopped by the police was realistic. Is Baltimore. They have a lot of corrupt officials. So that was actually wildly realistic. I did not see the twist coming about Bucky having a warrant out for his arrest and in turn being the one that gets arrested. So yeah. But I do think that like the way they just kind of threw Sam and Bucky back together, I did not enjoy. Like it literally Bucky just showed up and I was kind of like, oh, this may have been better if we just had like a little bit of context and backstory and how did you get here? And it's just like, I understand that he's upset, but he literally just showed up to what should have been a classified facility. I also was kind of like, Not my guy just showed up and walked in. Like, I mean, sure. But like, would that be the case? Because, you know, they're out here asking Sam for ID. And so I'm kind of like, but Bucky just like shows up. I mean, I guess it's the perks of being a white man, maybe. But wow, he just really just showed up and walked in. And I was like, oh, and met Sam there. And I was like, wait, what? So it's interesting to see their dynamic. I'm curious to see what's going moving forward. I love the nod to Black Panther and Bucky knowing that his name is White Wolf. For a while, my Twitter handle was, you know, White Wolf's Wakandan Widow. And so I appreciate it so much. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. The Flag Smashers are an interesting group because I don't necessarily think they're bad people. I mean, delivering vaccines, delivering food, and, you know, trying to make the world a better place through helping people. Yeah, I get, you know, that's a threat to some countries, but their underlying mission seems fine to me so far. So I'm kind of like, who am I supposed to be rooting for here?
I agree with you. I think that this episode was, for me, much more interesting than the first one, much more exciting. I do not trust John, not at all. And I think that it's so funny, and I think it was deliberate that for whatever reason, when he's wearing the like captain helmet, he looks very doofy, and I think it was very intentional that that's all we saw of him in the first one was this doofy face, because without it, he looks like your average like square jawed white dude. So I think it's so funny that they very deliberately were like, "Ooh, he looks doofy. Let's do that." I think it's intentional to like throw us off our game and not feel intimidated. Especially when he like stabs our team in the back. I agree with you about the bad guys, the rebel group. That it's I love when a show does that, when the people that are supposed to be the villains are doing something good, and you're like, wait a second. I think that's a very clever way to go about it, and I like what we're doing. I like the story that we're seeing, and I am excited for more. I think we said it before, but we'll say it again. Did not have to be weekly. This could have been all at once, and I would have preferred that. We all sat through a 4-hour movie. We can sit through a 6-hour show.
Yes. And really, I mean, as we know, like these episodes aren't even technically an hour. They're like 40 minutes each-ish. So like really we're almost right back into, you know, the Justice League Snyder cut at 4 hours almost. So yep. Yeah, I think that like, you know, there's something that rubs me the wrong way about John, in the sense that it's like, no, you know, I can't be racist because my wife's Black and, you know, my best friend's Black. And it's like,
it's not how that works.
John. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, at the end though, you know, like John's basically like, just don't get in my way and y'all can do whatever you want to do and I'll do what I want to do. So let's do that. And we choose to go see Zemo. So I'm curious to see kind of where it'll go, you know, in the future. I think too, one other interesting point about this, we're seeing the first Black super soldier, Isaiah, and just, you know, Bucky basically having he's been hiding him for decades, no one else knowing that he's still alive, and then also them sharing their experiences and how vastly different they were because Isaiah is Black, and how he spent, you know, after he was forced into this experiment and used as a physical weapon, then they put him in prison for decades. And meanwhile, Bucky is just, you know, out and about. And not saying that Bucky hasn't had strife, because he has, and has also been used as a weapon, has a lot of emotional turmoil and guilt and trauma from it. But he still got to do it on the outside. And that's, you know, the difference. So seeing that was a really compelling storyline. And if they go where they should go in the comics, and where I think that they're headed, and where I thought that they were headed for like 2 years, then hopefully his grandson plays a part in the Young Avengers that I hope that we're getting to. So because that would be dope. So it's just interesting to see all the layers. Again, I still don't know how this is going to tie into everything. I still can't see what that's going to look like in terms of all the content that we're going to get this year, how they're going to tie into it, but we'll see. So how did you rate this one? How are you feeling about it?
I had a great time. I'm giving it a kid. This was an enjoyable ride. There was some good action. We got more information about what the villains, I'm putting that in quotes, what the rebel team is up to, what is going on with Bucky and his personal issues. And I do like, that we're tying things into the movies, that like everything is relevant. And I think in the end, we're going to have to deal with an evil Captain America. And maybe this is where we get Captain America and Hydra. Like maybe this is how we do that. That might be interesting as well. We'll see. There's lots to do. What do you think?
I'm giving it a kitten. Yeah, I enjoyed it. The introduction of Carly, super dope. Who leads this rebel group, which really I'm like, let's change the world and do some good in it. So I'm curious to see where we go. I have no idea, apart from what I just said about potentially, this being kind of us building up to the Young Avengers in some sort of way. I don't know what's next. Is it Black Widow? I'm not entirely sure of the schedule.
I think Loki is next.
Loki is next. Yes. I don't know why I can't get that right. You're right. Loki is next. So I'm curious to see kind of how these all tie into each other and play out. But in terms of next episode, I literally have no idea what's going to happen, except y'all, we going to see Zemo. And what happens there? Who knows? So shout out to that. All right. So finally, we are here. Lastly, let's talk about the brand new Amazon Prime show, Invincible. Here is the longest mashup quick cap for the first 3 episodes. It's about time, Here Goes Nothing, and Who You Callin' Ugly. When Mark Grayson finally inherits powers from his superhero father, it's a dream come true. But there's more to being a hero than just choosing a name and costume. With his father out of action, Mark struggles to defend the city against an interdimensional invasion, joining forces with a team of teenage superheroes. Mark has to cut a study date short to help save Mount Rushmore from a crazed scientist. Robot deals with action comic as he assembles a new team of world-saving superheroes. That last part was weird. I don't know what that action comment was, but tell me, overall, these are the first 3. How are you feeling about Invincible?
I am here for this. I love a wild, wacky superhero show. I don't even mind the teen drama and the romance crap, which usually I don't care for. It's fine. I'm fine with it in this. I like that this is bloody and aggressive. I like these characters. I like that there's a mystery that's still behind it that I'm really, really impatient about, which I think is a sign of a good show, is when I get impatient. I'm here for all of this, and I wish it dropped all at once just because I'm impatient. I'm all about this show. I am 100% in. I love it. What about you? What do you think about Invincible?
You and the rest of the world want all of the episodes now, which is so funny because I have been following their Twitter and everyone's like, please tell us more. I'm really, really digging Invincible. Mark is such a likable character in the sense that he is just truly a regular high school student who happens to get powers, is living in the shadow of his father, trying to navigate dating, trying to come into his own, trying to keep that literal day job of his, not actually being a superhero, but he also has a day job, but he also is a superhero. And now he has to make new friends who are also soups and try to fit into that circle and that group. And so, it's interesting. There are a lot of twists and turns. I did not see Omni-Man being a sociopath as one of them, and killing legitimately all of the Guardians of the Globe in the final minutes of the first episode. I think that was truly the most shocking thing I saw, but there's layers to it. And so, you know, while we see that side of Omni-Man and we see him as a family man, we really don't know the truth and why he killed the Guardians of the Globe and if he was hired by someone else. But what we do know is that Robot was hired and is doing kind of his own dirty work. He's hired to assemble a new Guardians of the Globe to take the place of the ones that have fallen. But he lets the twins go, the supervillain twins go. He lets them go. One ends up dying, you know, because his brother kills him in order to save himself. And then we're like, well, Robot, what does this mean? And we know that the government is paying Robot. You know, we know that the agency is paying Robot to do this. So there's so many different layers. And it's so interesting because what's clear is right now there are a handful of people who you don't know if they're villains or if they're heroes, and they constantly are straddling the line in this show and kind of letting people live in the gray, which I think is an interesting concept for a superhero show, because as we know, human beings are not black and white. We are gray. And what happens if you give those people in the gray area, i.e. just regular humans, powers? What happens? So it's very similar to The Boys in that regard, in the sense that you don't necessarily know who's towing what line, but it is interesting. And, you know, I don't even mind the high school things. To your point, you know, there's a large love triangle or rectangle or hexagon. I mean, honestly, there's so many people involved because everyone is liking everyone, dating everyone. But, you know, Mark got a girlfriend, but he also got a crush. Said crush broke up with her boyfriend because he was having a threesome with with another member of the team and her clones, and then tried to get back together with her, but she broke it off so she could go see Mark, but Mark was making out with his girlfriend. It's like, what is happening? What is happening?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm really enjoying this. I think the Robot twist at the end was fun. That Robot was the one who helped the twins get out. Really great reveal. I do like it because you're like, wait, this Robot, interesting. Because up until this point, we were like, oh, Robot doesn't like pick a side. Robot is on the side of like goodness and logic and whatever. And that, I love that twist. I think that, so I said this in our last episode without spoiling, that the first episode I was like, this is fine. And then we get to a point where I was like, yes, love it. And it was clear to me that the Guardians of the Globe were going to die. And I don't know why, but it seemed like when they all got the call to come in, I was like, oh, this is a trap. They're all going to die. The shock was who did it. And I still have questions about why. And I'm so excited to find out. I also really loved the introduction of the detective, the devil detective.
The demon.
The demon, voiced by Clancy Brown, also from Emergence. Like, oh, I'm obsessing with this show. Let's
I love that
it.
he is emotionless. You know, like he truly is just there to solve the crime in order to get his soul back, essentially. And he wants to solve the crime and he's unbiased, you know. And so it's so interesting because one of my favorite scenes is the one that he does have with Debbie, because you already can tell that she knows something is up. And also she's just been noticing the way that Omni-Man has been talking to people. I think that for her has been the biggest draw. She's noticed that like his behavior towards people, even her, because he's been real snappy at her too, has kind of showed her like, And so a part of me wonders if this is even Omni-Man, you know, like, or if someone has, you know, done a little body swapping and, you know, changed it up and is holding the real Omni-Man hostage. That's a little shapeshift in action. That's what I wonder.
I love that. Because I'd assumed that he was like hypnotized or mind controlled, but interesting thoughts. All right, well, let's rate it so we can get into some predictions. What do you think on a scale from poop to kittens? Where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm a kitten for sure. I think the show is intriguing. It's good fun. It's actually quite funny too and lighthearted in places. And like Rexplode is a complete douchebag, but he's also pretty funny. Like, like his character is funny and you hate him, but like you kind of like him. It's one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh. So I like that about this cast, that everything is wild. I do often question, how long before Amber is like, you're clearly a superhero? Because the way this kid just leaves, I mean, he left her in that room for an hour. First off, I would never be at a stranger's home for an hour while they went somewhere else. I would leave. So there's that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about you? How did you feel about it?
I'm going with a bucket of kittens. Honestly, I love a bucket. I really like this show. It gives me the bloody gore outrageousness of Happy, which was a short-lived show on the CW, with the wacky superheroes of Harley Quinn, which is what I really wanted from this. Like, it's the best of things I love. So, bucket of kitten for Invincible. Any predictions you want to share?
No. I mean, I kind of already dove into them, but yeah, I think maybe Omni-Man is, not actually Omni-Man. And I'll see that everyone has secrets. I think that like really the people who are on the side of justice are Mark and Eve. Those are kind of the two people that I would say are truly on the side of justice. A lot of it is, youth, and they're a bit naive too. So I think that that's why. But I do think that, Cecil is going to do whatever it takes to protect Earth. He does not care about anyone's well-being, whether they live, whether they die or anything. And I think that Mark and Cecil will come to a head. They're going to have to, because Cecil's motives are different from Mark's. Mark is so new and so green, and he thinks like this is about just saving the world and protecting it and helping people. And Cecil's like, meh, is it? Like there are other things at play. And so I think that that's going to be a point of contention. And I also think that he's going to have Eve on his side, but what does that really mean? So what are your predictions for the rest of the season?
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like this show, every time I try to predict something, it goes sideways. So I have no predictions to add to this one.
Cool. All right. So let's dive into it. Performer of the week. Who you got this week?
I think we agree on this one. Danielle Nicolette, who played Cecile on The Flash. Seeing her have to have nightmares and then embody other people's nightmares and then expand her mind. It's hard to act in a chair and like not do, you know what I mean? Like not do much because that's how mental powers work. So I applaud her for this performance. What about you?
Yeah, so I loved Danny Nicolette's performance. I think, Danielle, she's like also just the kindest person, but I also think that it's very hard, to your point, to be able to kind of pull all this off, particularly in one episode, and to show strength, courage, fear, empathy. There are just so many different layers. And I think that she did that very well. I'm also giving an honorable mention to Sandra Oh, who is the voice of Debbie Grayson, plays Mark's mom. Just because like it's hard in animation to be able to like get things across voice wise, but I adore Debbie Grayson as a character. I mean, I think, not only is she brilliant, but she's strong. She is not afraid to go toe to toe with any of them, superhero or not. And so I am just really digging Sandra being the voice of Debbie as well. So honorable mention to Debbie as well. So character style icon, who you got?
I'm going with Amber from Invincible, just because her outfits are casual and comfy, and like that's how I'm feeling today. That's it. That's why she got my icon of the week. I would say nobody else really stood out this week for me, so that's why.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm going to go with Mama Luther. That pink suit was everything. I adored it in this Supergirl premiere. I could not stop looking at this suit. I was like, what a power suit. I loved it. So yeah, I think Mama Luther gets that style icon for me this week. And finally, what was your WTF moment of the week or OMG?
I have two. The Lena protocol was the fangirl in me squeed. That was definitely the best, especially for those of us who have been shipping the Super Corp shippers. I was definitely what I called a Kleena shipper because I was shipping Kara and Lena, not Lena and Supergirl, but whatever. Either way, the Lena protocol was perfect. Also, the kitten. I have to give a shout out to the kitten. Alice's kitten in a box was fantastic. I was very happy. I did not listen to a word in that scene because I was distracted by the kitten. What is your OMG or WTF moment?
So I'm going to go with everything on Invincible. Invincible has truly kind of just uprooted everything that you think is going to happen or believe or whatever direction it's going to go in. I mean, specifically that last 5 minutes of the episode where Omni-Man slaughters the Guardians of the Globe. What? Then, you know, where it picks up next episode and they're like trying to put them back together and like that goes way wrong and was very weird. What? Robots, you know, robot. Can't trust him. What? I mean, like, so there's so many. So yeah, pretty much everything that's happened on Invincible, honestly. All right. Well, that comes to the end of the show. Thanks everyone for joining. So, you know, of course, Yell, you know, thank you for being a fabulous, fabulous co-host. So where can everyone find you and what are you up to this week?
So I'm everywhere at Yell Teagle, and this week, specifically Friday night, there is a very special event happening over on my Twitch channel. It is a game of Drink or Dare. Let me pull up. Nope. I thought I had the graphic for it. Never mind. Drink or Dare, 5 p.m. twitch.tv/YellTeagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. Be there to watch a group of women content creators doing dares or drinking. Be there to dare us to do stuff. And it'll be a really great time. And if it's successful, we'll do it more. Until next week, where can everyone keep up with you, KB?
Everywhere. And by everywhere, I mean Twitter and Instagram at the Lady KB, THELADYKAYB. Check me out on Twitter. Don't know what's going to happen, to be quite honest. You could catch my interview with Rebecca Hall about Godzilla vs. Kong, which is out today. And for me was an exceptionally great time because I know what I came for and I came for the action. And that's exactly what I got. Lots of it. So yeah, check out Godzilla vs. Kong on HBO Max and then check out my chat with Rebecca Hall for The Beat, where we talk about her role in this film. And she came for the action too, to be quite honest. So, you know, love to see it. And yeah, we'll keep you posted with more interviews and things coming your way. But just check out my Twitter. That's where I post everything. And most importantly, next Wednesday, we will be back here for Super Lady Hero Hour to discuss more of your favorite TV shows, minus Batwoman, because it is currently on hiatus. And we may add a few more things to the roster and a few more films. We're gearing up for a lot more, trying to make sure that we keep up with all of the latest superhero content on all of the streaming services for each of you. So check us back out next Wednesday, 4 p.m. PT, 7 p.m. ET, right here on FANVERSATION.
Bye.